Welcome back to Building and Breaking, where we talk about how brands are built, trust is broken, and what salon owners, hairstylists, and pro beauty brands can learn. I'm your host, Nina Kovner, and this week we're talking about Drybar. Now, this is an interesting one because while I have been studying the Drybar brand for quite some time as a marketing and brand geek, I am not a customer and I have never been a customer of Drybar. So while there's some brands that we've talked about, almost all the brands we've talked about so far on this podcast have been like, I have a personal connection and love for them. My respect and admiration for Drybar is simply a business from a business perspective. So I just wanted to share that as I try to be as transparent as I can in these episodes and help you all kind of understand where I'm coming from and what my relationship is with the different brands that we deep dive on in this podcast. So, wow, this one took me a minute because while I have been studying them, as I said, for quite some time as a brand strategist, I haven't paid much attention to them in a few years. And so, in preparation for this episode, of course, I did what I usually do and took a deep dive into the internet. And wow, I knew things had changed at Drybar, but yeah. So this is a great brand to talk about and so many valuable lessons for, in particular, salons. Drybar didn't invent the blowout. I mean, come on, they didn't, but they did reimagine it. They created a place where people could walk in, sit down, and leave feeling awesome without spending a ton of money. Their brand was crystal clear: no cuts, no color, just blowouts. And there's a lot to be taken from that, and we're going to talk about that in this episode. Everything they did was connected to that one simple promise, right? As Drybar grew, however, that simplicity, that focus that made them the it girl for so long started slipping away. They grew fast and they grew wide. Ownership change, leadership change. And while Drybar is still here and they are very much in business, there's no question in my mind that the brand experience has changed. And as a brand strategist, I see the cracks through social listening, which is, what I do every day. However, as I shared in preparation for this episode, I went to my trusted sources, which um, two of the places I will usually go first are Reddit and TikTok. And then I will, after I kind of pick up on any type of themes, repetitive themes, then I'll go into actual client reviews. I'll go to Google business pages, Yelp, etc. And it does break my heart. It is always breaks my heart when there's a brand that I believe is so iconic and has done so much right. And where a place where people were so connected, so loyal. And now, when I hear things like, it's just okay, or it's not what it used to be, those are the red flags. Those are and these red flags apply to all of us if we have a business, or a brand. So, and, beyond what's happening in the salons, as again, I was doing my research for this episode, the online experience has become so chaotic. And again, that is so off brand for them. Now, again, they have different owners. They split up the salons and the products and tools. So, but the chaos doesn't need to be showing, but it is. Today I went to their website, or yesterday as I was preparing the episode, I went to their website, and the first thing I saw was 30% off everything. Okay, fine. It's a holiday week in the US. But as a consumer, I just wanted to book a blow dry, but instead I was hit with like 30% off tools, hair care, promotion. It's messy. It's messy. And it's just a great example of how it's not that hard to fall off track. It's just not. With I know a bunch of smart people at the helm. It's gonna impact them, and it impacts us too. So today on Building and Breaking, we're diving into Drybar's story to answer one really big question. How do we stay true to our brand story, our experience as we grow? And, it's always going to come back to the brand story being the filter. In today's noisy world, of course, we're getting nonstop advice. And the brand story is the filter. It's the foundation. It's the North Star. It's the compass. It's the GPS. It is designed for us to say, yeah, this is so aligned with the experience we are trying to create. This is so aligned with our brand promise. This is so aligned with the problems we solve, or it's not, because different brands solve different problems for different reasons. And not every piece of advice or strategy is meant for you. And I'll never shut the fuck up about that, because I truly believe, as I've shared in previous episodes, one of the reasons we have such systemic dysfunction, the same problem over and over and over again, is a lack of understanding of these fundamentals, brand fundamentals, market position, business model fundamentals. We're going to talk about that. So your brand promise is your North Star. Drybar was so clear. They were so clear, from pricing designed for their business model, to the playlist they use, to oh my gosh, their brand identity. Are you kidding me? That was one of the things that really caught my attention, was how consistent and aligned and intentional their brand identity was. And brand identity, just as a little like side note, brand identity, logos, fonts, colors, aesthetics are meant to help tell the story of the brand. They're not the brand. They're not the brand story. People sometimes get that confused. I see that a lot with coaches and educators, where they're like, we're going to work on your brand, and it's a photo shoot. And I'm like, no, you're not working on the brand. You're working on brand identity. But the thing is, you can't design a brand identity until you have clarity of your brand story, because your brand story is the foundation. The aesthetic, the design is there to help tell the story. So first comes brand story, then comes brand identity. That's why any professional graphic designer that you work with is not going to start a project without a creative brief, a brand identity creative brief. And in that creative brief, they typically ask for your brand story. If they don't, that's a red flag. So Drybar wasn't trying to be all things to everyone, right? They were solving a very specific problem. And as I was preparing for this episode, I realized that I actually talk about Drybar in the Creating Your Awesome Brand course, which I created a few years ago, but I've had multiple iterations of it over the last 13 years at Passion Squared. And it's actually in module 1. And in module 1 of the Creating Your Awesome Brand course, I show different brand story outline examples for different brands. So I mean, of course, my regulars: Costco, Starbucks, Apple. I did Drybar, I did Sola Salons, and a few others. I did Fenty and Rihanna, and then of course Passion Squared. So I think for this episode, it's really important to review what I see as Drybar's brand story. Now, I've never worked with them. I've never consulted with them. I've never like read a deck from them. This is just what I see from my brand strategy eye. So their brand purpose, what problems they're solving. I mean, let's be real. Most consumers get frustrated about not being able to style their hair at home. They don't have the time. It's frustrating. They value their time. They're all of those reasons. Everyday consumers are like, they want to look good. They want to feel good, but they struggle. So, I mean, if there's something out there, AKA a solution that is within their budget, that is of value to them, yay. So the Drybar brand promise: effortless, beautiful hair that, makes you happy and feel beautiful. Um, blowouts that last for days. So that longevity. Again, so much of the Drybar brand is about frequency of visit. So how often a client actually comes in. In fact, their membership, I believe, is 2 blowouts a month. So when you look at frequency of visit, um, different business models, different, right? Different frequency of visits. But in this case, if someone's coming in twice a month for a blowout, that frequency of visit would be 24 visits a year. Create an experience that fits, right? Modern, fun, affordable, accessible, and consistent, predictable results. The experience was consistent and predictable at one time. Brand people, who are they solving problems for? Busy people, whether it's professionals or whatever, parents that want kids hairstyled for like special events, people who value convenience, efficiency, and consistency. You're not sitting in the dry bar for 4 hours, right? And then anyone who loves to feel pampered, like just like a moment, right? A moment. And what services and products, what solutions do they create to help solve the problems of their people? A simple, curated menu of blowouts, consistent pricing, and a consistent experience. Home care products and tools to extend that salon experience at home. I mean, just simple, right? Simple. So, a big part of brand promise is the experience. And Drybar was so good at that. And they were so good at that. They were so good at that. I mean, a clear brand story is going to allow you to design the experience that aligns with who you serve and what they value. And that's true if you have employees or tenants as well, right? Because there's brand stories for clients, customers, teams, tenants, or what our industry still calls renters. Not a fan of that word. So Drybar solved real client problems, right? They weren't chasing trends. They weren't trying to like create something complicated. They just built a very simple business around a real problem. Now, at the time when Drybar started, it was innovative. It was innovative that you could have a single like problem, single solution, right? They still had room for growth. They absolutely had more room for growth when they created their own products and tools. And the thing I think that's important to remember is, I hear often on the socials about you need a niche. And it's like, no, that's so out of context. It's not about a niche, it's about your brand story. And different brand stories are going to create different solutions, right? So Drybar was very specific. Their solution was blow dries. But then a different brand, their solution is going to be more than blow dries. So different brands, different problems, different people, different solutions. And I think it's really important to remember that. And also remember that there are problems that your clients have today. And beauty brands, I'm talking to you too. There are problems that your salon customers have today that you can create solutions for. We just have to listen. We have to listen. And I mean, listening is a skill in itself. And of course, I know in the corporate, for the beauty brands, you all have so much access to like these online listening tools. But sometimes it's kind of like the difference between like just listening or a focus group. Like, I'm not a big fan of focus groups because I think sometimes you don't actually get what you're looking for because it's a little contrived, it's a little manipulated, it's a little weird. Just listen to the people. Just listen to the people. Have people that listen to people. Um, so as a salon, as a hairstylist, your clients are giving you clues every single day as to what frustrates them. And in this particular context of this episode, Drybar solved a very common problem, blow drying. one of the things that I recommend our clients do is that as part of the client experience inside the salon is that they obviously teach the client how to replicate their hair at home because clients want to be happy every day, not just the day they're in the salon. So that includes styling tips and, the right products and tools to replicate their hair at home and be happy every day. And, you know, and to videotape, to offer to shoot a little video. So many people are shooting content today. It'd be so great to shoot a little video while you're styling so your clients can watch that at home. I would love that. I would love that. So ultimately, innovation is about solving real life problems. And we tend to sometimes complicate that when it's really not that complicated. For brands, new products, they really need to connect to the real needs of salons and their clients. Not just more SKUs or not just because like so and so launched this, so now we have to launch this. Because that is such a never ending cycle, which I talked about in previous episodes. So simplicity is what I'm going to go back to simplicity so much in this episode because it helps with execution, it helps with consistency, it helps with efficiency. We talked about simplicity a lot in the In-N-Out Burger episode. Um, you know, Simplified menus, speaking the language of the client, it simplifies training and helps deliver a more predictable client experience. And again, I'm not saying, please, we're not doing absolute black and white thing. I'm not saying everyone needs to have a single service solution. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that less is almost always more. And Drybar is a great example of that. And you could still be a cut and color salon. You could be a cut, color, and style salon, but it could still be simple because it's really hard to stay consistent when you have 80 million different things. I think I told the Southwest story. I think I told the Southwest story in the In-N-Out Burger episode. I don't remember, but it's efficiency, right? It's simplicity. And Southwest, one of the reasons they were one of the most successful, consistently profitable airlines in history is because they had one plane, which means they only had to have one set of inventory of parts, one training program, one specialty of, whatever. So that's what I'm talking about. So simple almost always wins. And if you're struggling with consistency, take a look at first your brand always. Uh, but take a look at areas that are like, this could be simplified. So consistency of the experience really is what made Drybar so successful. And then inconsistency crept in. So how does that happen? It doesn't matter if you have one salon or 1,000. The issues are always the same. And it's creating complications. It's rushing through or skipping training altogether. It's not again. It's always going to come back to brand, not having clarity on your brand. So maybe not hiring aligned with your brand, or not firing aligned with your brand, or not even having an awesome client journey clearly spelled out. What I do with our clients is literally we make the awesome client journey pre-visit, visit, post-visit in like literal visual, right? A step-by-step visual. Because consistency is what builds trust, and it's easy to fall off. It's easy to fall off. But the thing that's happening with Drybar, the thing that I keep seeing over and over, and I mean, this makes sense. It again doesn't have to be this way, but typically they hire newer stylists, right? Newer stylists out of school. They have a training program. I don't know the training program, never seen the training program. They have a training program. So there is a disconnect. There is some sort of disconnect. And I believe part of it is that they grew too fast and things started to get a little cloudy. And with the new company, I don't know if I don't know. I don't know them. I don't know their leadership. What I do see is there's more dry bar franchises opening. What I also see is there's dry bar franchises closing. Franchising is difficult in general because of compliance, right? It's not easy to replicate. It's possible. We've seen it, right? We see chains, we see franchises, we see it's not that it's not possible, but it's definitely more complex. And I know that that's one of the things that Dry Bar is struggling with in what was once so simple has become um has become a little messy. And so, you know, consistency builds trust. Every single visit doesn't matter if you're a single solo independent stylist, you have a 50 chair salon or a multi location salon. And systems are designed to help deliver consistency, but without those systems, things start to fall apart. Dry Bar has systems. I'm still a little perplexed as to why they have fallen off. I'm not perplexed, like I know, but I hope they know. If anyone from Dry Bar's listening to this, my DMs are always open. Another reason that Dry Bar, I believe, built trust with their clients is they have always made home care part of the experience because it's part of the solution and they know that, right? So it was experiential, shampoos or stylers or whatever, tools, all aligned with their brand promise, all aligned with their brand identity. And for clients that did want to touch up their hair and, keep their hair looking fresh in between blowouts. God, it just reminds me so much of like the beginning of the industry, right? Like the shampoo set. If you're Gen X, if you're a Gen X hairdresser listening to this, oh, the shampoo sets. It's interesting because in when I was in the salon in 1987, I sound like a total fucking dinosaur, but I'm not. I promise. Um, we still had shampoo set clients. Like they were like bougie. I was in a salon in a bougie part of Northern Virginia, and I loved them all. We had the greatest shampoo set clients, but that's a high frequency of visit. Going back to frequency of visit, right? That's a weekly thing. It's a weekly thing where they come in, get their hair shampooed, get their rollers put in, sit under the dryer, and then get, combed out or whatever. Oh, I I loved working in the salon. I actually mix it. Anyways, home care. So even if someone's not doing their hair at home, they still want to freshen up, whether it's dry shampoo or hairspray or or whatever. But Dry Bar did such a great job on that. And what concerns me is that because when the founder sold, they sold the tool company to one company, Helena Troy, and then they sold the salon franchise part of the company to from what I can tell, is kind of a private equity, which we've talked about in this podcast. Private equity is not always bad, but they certainly do have a reputation for fumbling some pretty brilliant brands. I wish it wasn't like that. Anyways, so another thing that I loved about Dry Bar, such a great example of high lifetime client value. We talk about lifetime client value a lot, the amount of happiness, joy, referrals, and revenue your client brings you over the lifetime of your relationship. The reason why I talk so much about lifetime client value is that I see a lot of advice in the industry and have for the last several years of kind of like bless and block when like a client does one thing that you don't like. And that's not how to build a clientele. It's just not. And I'm not talking about healthy boundaries, but healthy boundaries aren't about blocking people. That's not a healthy boundary. That's a wall. And I'm also not talking about that one shitty client. I'm talking about in general. If a client misses an appointment, but that client's been coming to you for 5 years, that client has sent you 30 clients you love, you're likely going to make a different decision about that one time missed appointment. If you're not, you are going to be in trouble. And I see, especially independent stylists, struggling with this because of this out of context advice they're getting on the internet. So excuse me, Drybar is just such a great reminder of lifetime client value because happy clients create more happy clients, and that happened with them. It happened with them. And I think one of the most important things to kind of remember as we talk about Drybar's high frequency of visit and high lifetime client value and out of context advice from the internet, I talk often about the price pyramid and understanding that there are different business models, different market positions. Drybar was built for high frequency of visit, but that doesn't mean your salon is, right? Every salon is different. Every brand is different. Every market position is different. Every business model is different. So you could be an employment based salon with value price services designed for high frequency of visit, meaning you're doing 10 haircuts a day, they're $30. Your clients come every 4 to 6 weeks, right? And then you can have someone who is a luxury extension brand specialist, brand salon with a low frequency of visit, a very high price point, different brands. Again, Tribar is such a great example and great opportunity for me to talk about this and remind everyone they were designed, the entire brand from brand story forward, as a high frequency of visit brand. And if you remember the price pyramid, which I've shared multiple times over the years, they were kind of at the middle of the pyramid to actually the not the bottom of the pyramid, but they were kind of between the middle and the bottom, that mid market to value. In some cases, value. Now their prices have gone up significantly, which as most prices have. What bothers me about the price is that where price sensitivity comes in is when the experience and value don't meet the price. And that's what's also happening with them, right? So it could be, everyone's got a limit. We all as consumers have a limit. Like, yes, this I am getting value for money. And then ultimately there will be a price that people are like, yeah, I no longer see the value. And that's just business, right? So the top of the pyramid's low volume, high price. We could look at that as like a Bentley, a G wagon, or an extension specialist, right? And then you have the mid market, and then you have the mid market would be like my Subaru, or like a cut color, style salon. And then the the lowest part of the price pyramid, you have like a Kia Soul. I had a Kia Soul, loved it. Kia Soul, and you have $30 haircuts, and um, you know, you do haircuts or blow dries. So it's important to when we're analyzing dry bar that we understand these brand fundamentals and what happens when we veer from them. What happens when we veer from them, which we do, especially if we don't have clarity of our brand. Drybar is a brand that had such clarity for so long. And sometimes more isn't more, right? Bigger isn't better, especially when you don't have the systems or leadership to stay consistent on your brand promise. Now, as we've talked about in other episodes, can you change your brand story? Can you quote unquote rebrand? And I'm not talking about brand identity. I'm not talking about making the bottle cuter or the logo changed. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about completely shift your brand story. I mean, you can. It's incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. I mean, and do you have the energy to start all over? I truly believe that Drybar is just such a great reminder of how powerful simplicity and consistency is, and what happens when we fall off that consistency and simplicity train. I truly believe we all have an opportunity to simplify. I was so incredibly lucky and blessed to work for a leader whose brilliance was in simplicity. And so it's been ingrained in me since I was 20 years old. That's a lot of years. I'm not 20. So Drybar didn't disappear. I mean, they're still here. And from what I can tell, some locations are growing and they're adding more franchises. I don't think the tools and products are doing as well as Helen of Troy expected them to do, but that's not, I mean, that, whatever. Uh, for some customers in some locations, it's still worth going to Drybar, but beneath the surface, the cracks are visible. And it really goes back to brand promise and that consistency in delivering that experience online and off. Online and off. We talk about the awesome client journey a lot at Passion Squared. We're talking about it online and off because that's the way we live in 2025 and how your clients experience engaging with your business online, whether it's your website, booking site, socials, whatever. How simple or how complex is that experience? Because none of us have a lot of time. We're not gifted time from customers. We're just not. We're moving fast, right? Clients are moving fast. Customers are moving fast. So it needs to be simple, regardless of what your brand story is. Remember, different brands solve different problems for different reasons. And what worked for Drybar definitely may not work for you. But the lesson is there. The lesson is there. Solving specific problem, in the case of Drybar, blow dry, but problems, multiple problems your brand can be solving. And you are. And you absolutely are. And taking into consideration business model and market position, especially when you're listening to advice online. Everyone needs to do this. Everyone needs to do that. No, no. And that's why brand story is so important for you to have that filter, to be able to filter that advice and be like, yeah, this fits. And same for pro beauty brands. Same for pro beauty brands. Like if your brand is about health and wellness and holistic approaches to treatment and blah, 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 you may not need a gel or even a dry shampoo. It just may not fit, even though the market's like blah blah blah. I mean, look, Rhodes, Haley Bieber's brand, as you likely have heard, they were bought by Elf for $1 billion, and some of the think pieces on that acquisition are about $1 billion for just a few products. Yeah, more is not always more. More is not always more. In fact, typically less is more. Unless it's like love or dogs or deer or espresso or things like that. So, as we wrap up this episode, I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. How clear are you on your brand story? And what are the things that your brand is known for? Remember, your brand story is not about you, it's about those you serve. What solutions have you created recently that help solve a problem for your clients? And again, your clients are giving you clues every single day. And salons are giving pro beauty brands clues every single day as to what they're struggling with, what the problems are. And it's our job as brand stewards to create solutions. So, Drybar, again, I'm an optimist. I'm rooting for you. I think it's a brilliant concept. I thought it when it started. I still think it now. I think simplicity is always a good idea. Uh, but whoa, like, it, mm, I don't know who's listening at that company. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. and working on it. But the clues are there. They're always there for all of us. For all of us. Yeah, they are. But again, I'm rooting for Drybar. I'm rooting for all the brands so far that we featured on this podcast. I love brands. And again, I don't have to be a personal user of the brands to love a great brand story and a great story in general. I do hope they get it together. I think it's a great opportunity for newer stylists and honestly seasoned stylists that are passionate about styling. I think it is an opportunity, but there are cracks in the culture. There's cracks in the experience all the way around. And so I'm hopeful they'll fix them. Thank you so much for listening uh, and for your feedback. Oh, I am so grateful and appreciative of your feedback on these episodes. They do give me so much energy and focus. These episodes aren't hard. This is a challenge. I love it. I love this challenge. But this is definitely a whole different vibe from the previous podcast that I had for so many years. And I'm loving it and I'm so grateful that you're loving it too. So if you are loving this podcast, I would be so grateful to hear from you. You have brands you want me to do a deep dive on, as I've shared in previous episodes. Please bring those forward. I won't always do every brand, um, but I do want your feedback and your input. And if you feel inspired, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you would share a rating or review, that helps this podcast become more discoverable to other people it can serve. And that's really the greatest thing, right? When we can use these platforms, these technologies to empower others. I mean, that's always kind of what keeps me going. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And if you're ready to get more clarity around your brand, I did create that course, Create Your Awesome Brand, a complete course for beauty pros that I will link here. It's available. You can find it on any of the at Passion Squared socials, website, etc. Also link it in the show notes. It's the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are your foundation. And one of the promises I made from day one at Passion Squared was I am going to do everything in my power to empower you to make more aligned decisions. So I'm not making decisions for you because that's not empowerment. Like give a fish, feed a fish, take whatever that fish fucking. I never get that right. Whatever that fucking fish thing is, yeah, that. So when you have clarity of your brand, you have clarity of your business objectives. When you have clarity about how you want to feel as a leader, as a human being, as existing in the world, all of those things empower you to make your own decisions, make more aligned decisions. And that to me is beautiful. Thank you again so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of Building or Breaking. Remember to be where your feet are and have an awesome day.